In this section, we're going to talk about reverse curves. Reverse curves is going to be in the geometry introduction. We've got a couple of lines down here that we're going to draw a reverse curve in between. You can see that they are civil elements. And if you want to trim them back at all, they're going to have to be civil elements. So just make sure that they are. Okay. And so we're going to draw it in between these two lines. We're going to be up underneath the open roads modeling, geometry, and then we're going to go under the horizontal tools right there. Okay, we're looking at the reverse curves tool, and there's several different ones down here to look through. We're going to look at that first one, reverse curve by angle. That's the first one we're going to look at. We'll look at the rest of them as we go. So we click on that tool, and you can see I've got the feature definition toggle bar out here, geometry scratch loaded up as my feature definition, which is located underneath of the pull down here. We've got under linear, design, geometry, we've got the geometry scratch. So that's what I'm going to be drawing in and make sure it's checked on. And if you don't have that bar out there, you can go underneath the standards pull down here under geometry and look at feature definition toolbar. Okay, so to get this tool again, it's underneath the reverse curves, that very first tool by angle. So we come out and look at the dialog box. You can see that we've got different things in here, the ability to trim and extend. We can do both, none, back, or ahead. All of those, we're going to choose both. We could put in a linear transition angle if we want, but we'll just probably do that from the screen. And then we can also give these things a name. So you can always give any civil elements a name. We'll just call this one RC1. Move out on the screen, and it's going to say locate the first element. That's going to be the line on the top. So we're just going to left click on that line. And it's going to be right on that line with this tool. So we're going to tell it where do we want to start. Now this is the first time we enter the start point. It's going to say the second element at the bottom. We'll left click on it and slide out. And we can key in length here if we want, or an angle here if we want. But if we move out, all we have to really do is place where we want it to go. So you can see that angle's changing as we move out and slide that out. Okay, so we're going to slide it out here, and we'll go ahead and find a good place for it, and we'll left click to start it. That's actually going to be the end, but we'll start it there, and then we'll slide back to the beginning and we'll enter another start point. So this is like the second start point, but this is the original start point. Where do we want it to start? Right in there, so we'll left click. Okay, you could use other tools here. You could use Civil AccuDraw or anything like that, but if you just left click, you can place it out there. And then our trim and extend is set to both, so we'll left click to accept that. And then if you hit F4 or hit the element selection tool, you can come out here and see its individual pieces. Okay, so that is creating that reverse curve. I'm going to come up here and do a couple of undos. The first undo undoes the trimming, and the second undo will undo the actual reverse curve. So we'll go to the second tool in there, reverse curve by radii ratio. And that one you can come out in the dialog and you can look, we got a couple of new items in here, back radius and a ratio. And we're just going to do those on the screen, and then we're going to trim both. So we're going to come out here on the screen, we're going to do the same thing, left click on that top line, left click a start. Locate the second element, we'll left click on it. It wants to know, it can key in a back radius if you want at this point, or you can place it anywhere out there that you want. As I move that out there, go ahead and you can see that radius that it's looking at right there on the end. That's the back radius. We're going to key in 1,000 on that and hit enter. And what that'll do is kind of lock it in. If you get too close in, it'll give you the blue lines and the red X, which means it can't create that. So we have to move it out to where it will create it. So we'll just move out to an end location that we want to place it, left click, and then it wants the start point again. So we can move it, basically slide it along that top line and left click to place it. Then we can trim both again just by left click on the trim and extend both. And now if we go out to our element selection or hit F4, you can see we've got 3 individual pieces. That middle piece is your reverse curve, and there's the 1000 back radius that it created, and you could change that or keep it that way. I'm going to undo a couple of times, and we'll go to the next reverse curve, which is by tangent. Okay, this one's a little different, the way it's going to draw it out. We've got a transition length that we can put in, and we can trim and extend both again. This one we're picking the top line again, and we're picking that start point, and then we're picking the second line, so everything's the same here, and we're picking the we can actually come in here and put in a transition length. So if I key in a transition length, it may switch which direction it's trying to create this reverse curve here, but let's key in 200 and hit enter on that. Once you move your mouse around, you're going to notice that it kind of switches that over to the other side. Because of that length, it may not be able to create it exactly the way you want. So if we come out and say we're going to switch it around that direction, we can come out and hit the start point out to the right and trim both, and it will run it the other direction with that 200. So I'm going to undo that again, and this time we're going to go the other direction. We're going to pick the bottom line first, okay, and we're going to start it back over on the right, and then we'll pick the top line and we'll start it back over to the left. We've got that 200-foot linear transition length. We're going to enter that in, and then we're going to start that over there, and then say where do you want to end it, which is actually the start point for this one, and we can get the same kind of information that we had before. Okay, but if you left click on it, you'll see that 200-foot transition is right there in the middle between the two curves, so we're locking that in. And you can change that there if you want. We're going to undo a couple of times and take a look at the next tool in there. This is going to be line at angle. So this is going to create a line from one of the lines that we have out there to the other at a particular angle, or transition angle. You can fill it in the dialog, or you can come and place it. So we're going to left click on the bottom line, and we're going to tell it where we want to start that line. Then we're going to left click on the top line, and wherever we left clicked on that bottom line for the start, it's going to try to do an angle off of that. 90 degrees is straight up and down, so as you move out, you're adjusting that angle. Okay, so if you move out just a little bit, you'll see 90 degrees is closer to straight up and down on the screen. So you could key in an angle here, or you can move out and left click and place it. So if I just move out here to the right, I can left click to give the angle, and then where do I want to start that line? Left click again, or you can key in a distance or anything like that with Civil AccuDraw, and then we'll trim it back. Okay, again, it's 3 pieces, but you have created one with an angle. I'm going to undo that one a couple of times, and we'll get the last tool in there, reverse transition. This one has a lot in the dialog box. Everything that's in that dialog, it will ask you about out on the screen. So that's where we're going to do most of it, but you can do offsets, radiuses, you can do all the different transition lengths, the head radius length, and the radius ratio. So it's kind of all in one tool here. What we're going to do is we're going to do this out on the screen, and it's going to step us through all those. So we're going to left click on that top line. Now it's giving us an offset. Okay, let's say that I want to be 50 feet to one side or the other of this, or say 50 feet to the right of it. What you can do is actually key that information in. So I'm going to move down below that top line and key in 50 and enter. And then it says, do you want to use that? If you do, then left click to accept it. And then the second element at the bottom, we're going to go 50 feet above it. So that'll be a negative 50 that we can key in there. So I'll just move up above it a little bit here and do a negative 50. Enter that in. And then we can move that around. It says the end offset, and we can left click Here on the screens you see I'm moving around, it's sliding 50 feet. Okay, I'm going to left click to accept that. Now it says define the length of this particular one. So we're going to move out. We're going to go ahead and key in a number of 700. So that's going to give us that 700 length out there. We can accept it, and then we're locked in at that 700. So as you see, you slide along there, left click to place it. Okay, if I look at that, select it, you can see there's the 700 foot length. Okay, there's the 700 foot length across the bottom, and then you can go out and modify any of the other aspects of that. Alright, you can see that you can't trim back or ahead on this one because there is that 50 foot offset. If it was right on it, then you could trim it. Okay, and that is your reverse curve tools.